Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest video discussion in the RICS Tech Partner Program series. My name is Andrew Knight and I work within the knowledge and practice area of RICS, looking at the effect of data and tech right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 members working globally right across the property lifecycle through land, planning and development, construction, valuation, brokerage, building management, asset management, building surveying. It's obviously an incredibly wide canvas upon which data and technology is having a very profound effect. And indeed, our members work across all the major asset types: land itself, residential, commercial, alternative assets and infrastructure. And I'm glad to have my colleague Aaliyah join us today as well. Aaliyah, do give us a brief intro.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah. I've been with RICS working with Andrew Knight, looking at data and tech for just under a year now. Prior to this, I worked within the geospatial field with experience in both the military and construction industry. And today I'm particularly interested to take part in this call as I myself am a hobbyist drone pilot.
Good stuff. And Jason, last but not least, very much, Jason, welcome from DroneWorks. Great to have you on the call.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Now, I always like to start these calls with a bit of the human side before we get into the bits and bytes and the tech. And it'd be great to hear about a bit about your background, the backstory, and the origin of DroneWorks.
Yeah, sure. So I don't actually come from a construction or surveying background. Before drones, I'm a software engineer, was working as a contractor and consultant, mostly involved in back-end automations, data processing, and bringing efficiencies to streamline workflows. Alongside that, I'm a bit of a geek and into my gadgets. And when the original Mavic Pro came out, I was just really interested, in drones in general. But when I actually got hold of one, I realized that if you collect the data in the correct way and you have the right software to manage that data, you can do some really useful things with it and produce some useful deliverables. So around this time, I was also a member, and still am, of Drone SAR for Lost Dogs. It's a really good network of volunteer pilots across the country that help volunteer go looking for people's dogs when they've bolted across the moors, for example. And it was through that group that an opportunity came up to do my the PFCO, permission for commercial operations, which is now the operational authorization. And I really just did that out of interest, and that's really when the cogs started turning and the ideas started really coming out. And for me, more interested in the data side, that if we collect this information properly with a drone, and it's hugely time saving on site, we can then save time off site using the software. And that's how it all came about, and that was 4 years ago. And I've been full time with it for 3 years now, and it's going from strength to strength.
Great. I mean, it'd be great to hear some of your thoughts. You mentioned a few key words which made my ear prick up about kind of, across this property life cycle, about efficiency, reducing risk, and also how, you can look at four-dimensional data to help that. It'd be great to get your perspective on that topic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously construction is ever continuing, and the projects are getting larger and larger. Now, we've always been able to collect information on site, and that's what surveyors and site engineers are doing. But as these sites get bigger, the projects are getting more complex. The management teams are needing this data quickly in order to drive decision making. And that's where technology is really coming into play. It's bringing these efficiencies. So as long as you understand the limitations of whichever technology you're using, we can save time and reduce risk massively on a construction site. We can cover 100 hectares easily in a day to centimetre accuracy and provide those deliverables in a matter of days, whereas previously it would have taken days on site with a team of surveyors to collect that data, and then more days on top to process and deliver, in which time the site on which that data is based has already changed because the projects are fast moving. So the efficiency is a big one, and the larger the area, the more complex the area, I think the bigger the benefit of drones and other technologies come to play. On the 4D side, though, this is a really big component. Now we're able to collect data more quickly, more consistently. The fourth dimension is time. So we can now monitor a project over time through the full life cycle, especially where construction is involved. So from planning through to design, the actual groundworks construction, all the way through to maintenance. You know, technology has a key part at every stage, and the companies that are embracing this at the moment are seeing huge gains and benefits, and saving time and money and reducing risk across their projects. It's really is useful stuff when it's used properly. Can you see a 3D model of a farm?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically a lot of the work that we do now is not just flying the drone and collecting images, but providing it in a more useful manner. And one of those ways is creating 3D models, digital twins, to supplement the standard surveys that we provide. And this example in particular is a good one because it's quite a complex farm setup, a logistics kind of set of warehouses. And even if you were able to get on the roof manually, you know, getting into areas like this would be difficult. It would be very costly, and it would, you know, bring with it some risks. Whereas this data set was collected in about 2 hours with the drone. It was processed in 24 hours. And now the client has this interactive model that they can share with their team. And in this case, they'll be using it to design and install solar panels. So they've got thousands of square meters of roof space here that can potentially be used for solar panel installation. And we've provided this model for context, but also out the back of it, provided them with accurate roof plans of every single one of these roofs that's on screen. So, you know, it's just a really good use case where the larger and more complex is where kind of drone technology really comes into play, because doing this any other way would be difficult.
Thanks, Jason.
Just a relevant point, Jason. I'm also a volunteer drone pilot for the search and rescue lost dogs.
Brilliant.
But I put it out there.
Yeah,
but back onto the question. So would you be able to tell me a bit more about the use of drones for data capture and analysis, particularly within the construction lifecycle?
Yeah, so if we're talking about, let's take a brownfield project or even a greenfield project, the first thing that normally needs to be done is site feasibility. So, you know, we can quickly get topographical data, high resolution imagery, and basically give context awareness and take measurements of sites quite quickly. So at a feasibility stage where we don't know if the project is going ahead, we can still quickly collect accurate data that's useful with minimal time and investment. So, you know, if that site becomes not feasible, we've not invested too much resource. But then as the project gets underway, we can then start using this data in construction. We're really talking about topographical data, levels, stockpile volumes, and it can be used throughout the whole process. And once we've got that data in a digital format, the deliverables, you know, are endless and can be used and shared and collaborated. And this is where it's really useful, is once you've got that collaboration piece, everybody working from the same page, from the same data set, that's where it becomes really powerful. But on a large project, when we're talking about monitoring, that data is then key to making sure we're verifying the as-built versus the design. We can track earthworks movements, how much muck has been shifted. We can check how much materials we've got on site for our material management plans, and generally just use it to make sure that the project is on time and on budget. And the beauty of using drones and other surveying technologies right now is that this data is made available quickly, it's accurate, and it's shareable, meaning that issues can be picked up quickly and rectified in the cheapest, quickest, safest manner, rather than realizing when it's too late and we're now looking at a huge bill to, you know, to make those mistakes right again.
Yeah, Jason, it's interesting you mentioned there that you know, it's about data and drones, but also in combination with other kind of pieces of surveying. And I guess it's interesting to perhaps to probe a bit more deeply on that, because a lot of people I talk to now do say that it's more about the data than the drone to some extent. Clearly, the drone is enabling us to do lots of exciting things very quickly, but it'd be interesting to kind of get your sense of what the overall deliverable from a data perspective looks like, and how other kind of surveys fit into that to produce this overall data output that people are using in the way you've described.
Yeah, so initially, especially when people don't fully understand how drones fit into the whole surveying piece and construction projects as a whole, people might come to us and say, oh, we need a drone survey. But the problem is that, like anything, the drone is just a tool, like a total station or a GNSS rover, and it's only the start of the process for collecting the information. It's not a magic bullet, and it doesn't give you the end result. It merely collects the data. And so we really need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the technology we're using to get the most out of it, and also so that we don't fall into some of the common pitfalls and make mistakes. But once we understand that, the deliverables, we can take 2D imagery, turn it into 3D topographical data, and then we can further process that into the deliverables that our clients are used to working with. So for example, if they currently do traditional surveying, they'll have a team of surveyors and site engineers collecting a grid of data across the site and producing a topographic drawing or some CAD deliverables. We can do that from the drone data and get that data into the same deliverable that they are used to working with. And that's usually kind of step one, is let's do what they already know, but provide it more quickly and with a bit more data involved, you know. So we're not just collecting the things that the client is asking for, we're collecting everything about that site and then picking out the pieces that they might need. But if ever they need to look back and say, oh, well, actually, we need to measure this culvert that we didn't ask you to measure in the first place, well, no problem. We've already got that data. We can go back and pull that information out. But there's a few
Jason, in some respects, I think hopefully that the sector has moved on in its understanding of drones and how they can be employed, because obviously there's the historical view of drone, take it up part of a building you can't see, typically the roof, and that's kind of what it is. But obviously you know, things have moved on hugely given the payloads you have and the different use cases. So it'd be great if you could sort of paint a picture for us for the kind of use cases, you know, that are being used in property across the life cycle, given the different payloads you've got, and how it's gone so far beyond this kind of drone flight, look at the roof, that's all we do sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's so much more than just imagery. Obviously, depending on the payload, we've got LiDAR, which helps us to penetrate vegetation, get a true model of the ground in a difficult environment that, you know, a team of surveyors might not be able to get down into a culvert or a stream or an embankment covered by trees. LiDAR is really good for that. Using high resolution imagery sensors, we can use photogrammetry to collect accurate topographical and 3D information. Using infrared sensors, we can do thermal surveys of either buildings, of concrete, looking for defects there. And in the summertime, we can use them for analysing solar panels, looking for cell level problems across solar farms and roof mounted installations. But yeah, there's on the construction side, we can take 2D information and provide highly accurate 2D and 3D information that can then be used further down the process and used as if it was collected by a traditional method, if they so wanted. But we've now got this 3D piece where we can collaborate without any special tools through a cloud platform. We can collaborate over 3D and gain a wider awareness and context of the project, not just these dots and data points in a CAD file. We've now got realistic, nearly real-time visuals of the site, so that we can get a greater awareness and pick up on things that we may not have picked up on before.
Indeed, thanks, Jason.
Jason, as you're probably aware, drones can seem to have a negative association. It seems that they're often seen as toys, and the industry doesn't always fully understand their full potential. In your opinion, what do you think are the challenges and limitations of drone tech?
Yeah, so firstly, there's the public perception. So, for example, if we're flying a construction site and there are residential properties nearby, if we're doing a roof survey, a residential roof survey, and there's properties nearby, then the general public see a drone and instantly think there's something bad going on. You're not allowed here. Why are you looking in my garden? And 9 times out of 10, once you've explained what you're doing, that you're trained and qualified, insured, and you're here for a specific purpose, most people are understanding. But there's always a couple of people that seem to think, even if you're following the distance regulations and you've done your full risk assessment and you're operating safely, if someone perceives that drone to be over their garden, even though it actually may not be, you get the odd person that comes at you and they just want to have a shout and a moan. But that aside, on the areas of operation, obviously, depending on the authorization you're operating under and the size of the drone and the proximity to uninvolved people, that's where the legalities come into play. And can this drone flight be done safely? So, for example, if you're on an industrial estate or doing a land survey in the countryside, no problem. But if you're in a city, construction area, it's a very busy area, limited space for takeoff, then that's where it becomes a bit more tricky. And these jobs are still possible, but they take more planning. You need more risk mitigation in place, and generally you'll need more personnel on the ground to enable that job to be done safely. But it's I think as time goes on and drones are becoming more and more mainstream, people more aware of them, those confrontational kind of situations are less, but they still do happen now and again.
You just mentioned there about the legalities of drones being a limitation. How do you think this will change in the future, say the next 5 to 10 years when drones are being widely applied within the surveying industry?
I mean, it's something we're just going to have to work around, like we always have done. But over the past few years, these regulations have changed, quite quickly and quite frequently, to the point where you've got many people in the industry who don't fully understand the rules themselves. They may even be a commercial drone operator, and even they're confused by the rules. So ever since Brexit and the UK taking these rules under their own remit, these rules we're still kind of finding our way in on how to do this stuff, not how to do it safely, but how to legislate it so that this is clearly understood and we can still get the data we need, do it safely, and within the rules of the law. But
sorry.
I was going to say, I still think the rules are evolving, and as technology evolves and it gets safer, those rules may relax slightly, but we really don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say whether they're going to get stricter or more lenient as more people use drones. But to summarise, one final question. Where do you see the future of technology in the property and construction sector?
So this encompasses drones, other technologies such as laser scanners, software technology. I think going forward, we're going to see more of a hybrid approach. So at the moment, you get a lot of people saying, I want a drone survey, I want a land survey, I want a building survey, and you might go to particular people or companies to get those individual surveys. I think over time, we're going to see more of a hybrid approach where different survey types, different data collection methods are used, and a hybrid approach to provide that deliverable to the client. But also the sharing of data. So as now we're able to collect more data quickly, that gives us another problem, that we've got gigabytes of information, highly detailed, highly accurate, and the client just struggles to use it. And if they can't use it, they're just going to go back to their old ways. So I think the methods of sharing, the software we use, and the platforms, I think are also going to improve. And obviously the big AI buzzword that's going around at the moment will also help to assist with some of this efficiency and streamline these processes.
Great. Well, certainly from my perspective, this has been a fascinating chat. And I think, as you say, Jason, that, that the future looks very bright in the sense that drones will become part of this overall data collection and data and analytics approach, where this is like a really good combination of, if I can use the phrase, more traditional surveying, but also using the drones for what they're best at and merging these data sets, as you say, into these very, very powerful analytical tools. But for today, thanks ever so much for your time, both of you, and look forward to catching up again in the future.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Pleasure.